Good evening, everybody. I want to all of you. Great to have you with us on a fabulous Wednesday evening. I'm Sharma Mascarenhas, and we'll be joining you for today's session. To those of you who are streaming through Facebook, hello and welcome to all of you. On behalf of AIESEC in University of Colombo, Sri Lanka, we warmly welcome you to the second Insight webinar. We are hosting Insights for the fourth consecutive year, and it's great to join you virtually this time because our conference is generally very big and scale. However, it's nice to join virtually for reaching out a bigger and a greater audience as well. Our topic today speaks volumes of victory, failure, regret, success, you name it. Troubled times have really pushed us to our limits, and this is where we are today in our industry. For young graduates to qualify and obviously to join the corporate industry, there are changes that's taking place where a lot of people look at the insights of, let me do something different. Let me bring out my idea in a different way. The problem is, will the corporate industry accept this, or will it be the point where I don't need to join anywhere, let me do my own thing? That's the kind of perception that we're moving on with today's group, as I would like to call the young energetic group. But we're here to speak about the idea that can bring great value. Oftentimes, even though it can be rejected, this can be a turnaround into our lives as well. We're here to speak to two of the very greats in the industry who have always perceived in believing the real change. So your idea could be the next. Want to find out and see great insights as to what these two individuals will share with us today. Joining us for our first session is the co-founder of Hatch Co-working Accelerator and Incubator, successful strategist, entrepreneur, a real investor and an innovator for Sri Lanka, and he currently runs a multifamily office in Singapore covering investments in the region, including in Bangladesh. If you have questions, we'd like to invite you to drop in your questions on the Facebook comment section, and we hope that you'll join us throughout this 1 hour as well. Joining us for our first session is Nathan Sivagananathan. Good evening.
Hi, Sharon. Nice to see you. And hi to everybody from AIESEC as well.
Good to join. So you're right now in Hambantara or Unawatana?
I am. I wish I was in both of those places. I am back in my office. But
you're
it's
back.
Great
you're
to
back
be in those places. So.
Great. Thanks, Nathan, for joining us in this session. And we're going to start by asking this whole concept, idea today. The acceptance of an idea is the most important thing. However, we see that the newbies present today in society would seem whether this idea will be accepted in the corporate world. How will oftentimes we have the seniors, the bosses who would say, let me my idea there instead. How do you see this, Nathan, in the corporate world?
Well, firstly, I wish I was a 21-year-old today, or even an 18-year-old, because I think the tools that are available in this digital world is so amazing that you're a global business straight away. So firstly, I think, everybody who's coming into the world today on the business and corporate side, this is the best opportunity that's been there in this lifetime of myself and probably this decade, this century as well. Secondly, I think in most Sri Lankan families, there's this always this professional push to learn the STEM education, which is because you do become very smart. But I feel that in the new world, STEM education is only going to be part of it. And you have to really explore other areas like innovation and entrepreneurship. And unfortunately, our schools and universities don't teach individuals about that. And you actually doing and failing. So I actually started off my first job as a paper boy at 11 years old and earning money at that time in the UK. Delivering paper was probably the first entrepreneurial thing that I did.
Nathan, can I interrupt you? Did someone tell you to do that, or was it something that you let me do this? How did that come about?
It was a pure need of wanting to buy season tickets to watch Manchester United.
Right.
So pure need of getting money to do that. So my parents.
Regret.
fund that. But it just creates this need for, you appreciate things a lot more when you do it yourself at a young age. And unfortunately, I would send my kids to work at McDonald's when they grow up, because they need to learn the skills, and money doesn't come easy. So the first thing is, I think you have to create that environment in the families to be able to take those risks. I know in our culture that we get the kids to do a lot of things, and people who have coming from a farming backgrounds, get them to work in the farm. People at home, get them to do housework and treat people with respect. But this is a new world where you have to trial and error. So, everything from starting at washing and cleaning cars as a business are things that you need to go through, and a few things as well. So the first thing I would tell everybody is, don't be scared. That's the number one thing, because you're too young to fail, and you have too many years ahead of you to recorrect yourself. If you don't like something, or if something doesn't work out, you're still very young, to worry about, oh, what's my career? I want to be this, and I want to be a CEO by this. Don't worry about that. That will come automatically. And actually, one of the most important things is, whatever you do, you have to be, I know people use this word passionate, but you have to be, and you want to get up in the morning and do that. Because as soon as the moment you get up in the morning and say, I've got to do this again, you're not in the right job, or you're not in the right business. And I think that's where the starting point of this whole thing is, my advice to most people in this day and age is, go out and try as many things as possible. People don't care, like in the olden days, oh, you had 5 jobs in the last 8 years. They don't really care. You go and do any job you want. You want to do it for a year, do 2 years, loyal. Here, there's a worry of being sentimental and loyalty to a company or individuals that sometimes holds us back in sort of trying new things. And that's the number one thing that I would say, go out and try as many things as possible at an early age, and fail at it as well.
Now then, a lot of people following COVID-19 pandemic has lost their jobs. We know that it's an area that has been spoken. Some of them are rather confused as to why they lost a job. But there is a massive challenge now for them to come out and do something different. And then there is the entrepreneur. How will my product be accepted in a market that is currently faced through the pandemic? What do you have to say to a person like that?
So, I'll take an individual first, and then I'll come into a startup second. From an individual's point of view, it's a tough time to come into a job market itself. People are not hiring. People are, even in an environment like Sri Lanka, large corporates have taken salary cuts all the way down to the lowest paid individual. And also there's a view that X number of people will get lose their jobs over the next few months, possibly even more. And I think it's not going to go away. So the job market itself is going to be tough. And you, as an individual, can take it as a challenge and stay at home and sulk about it. I think there are enough jobs that can be created in Sri Lanka. Yes, people are losing jobs. 45 million people lost their job in the US, for example. But with all of this, here comes opportunity as well. I mean, during the pandemic, many companies that were on the verge of closing suddenly started doing very well. Many industries that were struggling have suddenly started becoming an important industry to the country. The governments generally globally have structural changes that are going through now, and they are being very lenient on policies as well. And that creates really big opportunities. So restrictions get lifted. There are import restrictions in Sri Lanka today, quotas on product that you can import or export. And the exporting goods has become expensive as well. So what happens is those countries are looking at cheaper alternatives in close by regions. So the most important thing is you have to keep it lean and you have to keep it necessary. So do things that are lean and necessary first. And secondly, look at those opportunities. I mean, in Sri Lanka, if you look at just the imports of products, it's huge. And we still rely, our balance of payments are still very negative because of the imports. And I'm actually glad this government has put a stop to a lot of these luxury items, etc., because it creates opportunities. So, creating opportunities in the agriculture industry, for example, in every single sector. And agriculture is not just about eating food, but it's also about growing other produce for animals, as well as other input items. Like, for example, someone who's making a juice and packaging that, they need to get those fruits. And if you work backwards and understand where the opportunity is, there are enough opportunities for people to go out and get start a business if they've got it. Through COVID has become, because if you've got an idea, there are enough resources, and at Hatch we are doing many programs for people to come and participate in and understand where those opportunities are. So there's an accelerator program that we're currently running on fintech, because we believe that fintech is going to be one area that's going to be disrupted, and people have bringing forward ideas, and we're running a team of, I think, about 6 companies that are currently running through this accelerator, creating an opportunity on fintech. And the government are, bending the rules. Yesterday, the central bank has finally got onto blockchain as a good example, and that probably took a decade of conversation, but it had to happen now. So I think there will be these buckets of opportunities that individuals can start looking at. And don't forget, Amazon means you're global, and it doesn't take a lot for you to create a website, test products, and start shipping as well. So I think the lack of travel and the lack of requirement for travel has automatically created opportunities for individuals to be able to explore other opportunities of employment. Don't be scared. That's all I'm going to say.
Now then, how do you see Sri Lanka moving ahead from the pandemic? We have a youth that's booming out from the universities, sparkling with so much of ideas, so much of energy, and these guys are really bringing out that we see here in Sri Lanka. How do you see this moving about when we hear countries pulling out of WHO?
Recessions are extremely uncomfortable. I think it's a period where entrepreneurs and specifically many startups, they're the least fed. I mean, look at globally, startups have struggled across the world, but governments have got behind them and supported them. Unfortunately, in Sri Lanka, the banks are still very draconian in the way that they approach startups. They don't lend money to them. They don't lend money to anyone who doesn't have any collateral, and that's a bit of a struggle. Those who are determined will get there. And the thing to remember is that sectors that are going to benefit from your knowledge, and look at all the goods and services, number one, that are imported in, I would say, and look at the goods that you can export out of Sri Lanka, and start looking at opportunities where you can create a business. Secondly, I think, one of the I would say are interesting is things like cloud kitchens. Is a concept where you can create brands and you can bring in brands and service consumers. Cybersecurity is another area. Delivery mechanisms. Delivery companies did very well during the pandemic. In fact, FedEx in the 70s started their business during a financial crisis. So here's a good example of a delivery company that really changed the game. Looking at health and insurance, ag tech, fintech, and e-commerce, those are sectors that are really going to do well. And even traditional businesses with brick and mortar manufacturing here would do very well. Things like the farm, even the agri industry itself, not just ag tech, but agri industry. Interesting thing to see, Sharon, is that companies like Salesforce, Google, and Facebook started just before the 2009 pandemic. Facebook started. Google and Salesforce started in the 90s when there was a financial crisis. And if you look at the opportunities that they've created by just doing that, it's immense. If you look at other companies like in 2009 and more to the age group of our listeners today, companies like Uber, Airbnb, Warby Parker, Venmo, which was started by a Sri Lankan, all started during the 2008-9 crisis. So here's an opportunity, and because of the current global digital environment, it creates a lot more opportunities for startups to really go global and be motivated by companies like the ones I just shared. If you look at globally, yes, the jobs are being lost, but look at the global stock market, how it just bounced back within a few months. And I think these are indicators that really say that there is opportunity that will be created through this. And in Sri Lanka, yes, we're a small country, but with a massive heart and a lot of passion. So I think Sri Lankans generally fight and get back to normal. I mean, with the Easter bombings that happened last year, the tourism industry got really affected for 6 months. But as you know, being in the entertainment industry, how everybody fought together and won in the end, and country like Bali, when they had the bombing, took 2.5 to 3 years to get back to normal. Sri Lanka got back to normal within 7-8 months. And that's a great example of why tenacity is important during this period. And working together, collateral damage that's caused by this, you can get through that if you work with parallel companies, with people not outside your industry, people in your industry, and partner up and do these things. So I think there's an opportunity, and anyone who needs any help I'm happy to. They have to please reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram, and I'm happy to help them find those opportunities as well.
Now then, a lot of youth today have a lot of ideas, and that relates to our topic. Your idea can be the next best thing, but convincing an investor is one of the biggest challenges that a person would face. How would you advise on this?
So Sharon, I see a lot of companies. I see about 10 to 15 companies every single week. They come out of various parts of the globe, a lot of them from Southeast Asia and South Asia. And, I have about, giving 15 minutes to anyone who reaches out to me. And some of them have become great investments, and some of them have become great friends as well. So the number one thing is reach out to people. Don't be shy about your idea. Don't be worried about what people are going to think about it. Just reach out. For me, there are 3 things that really I look for when I look at any individual or startup. Can I work with that person? Number one is probably 60% my marks as to whether I go ahead or not.
Then what do you look in a team player?
Good question. So I normally see whether the 3 words I look at is passion, persistence, and patience. Because you need to be extremely passionate about the problem you're trying to solve. And most people come and try and solve a problem that the world doesn't really need solving. Understand whether they're passionate about the problem they're trying to solve. Second, persistent, really overcome many obstacles that will get in the way, whether it's individuals, whether it's government, whether it's customer, whether you have that persistence and keep knocking. To be honest, a great thing to Lishani Gihani of AIESEC, the persistence to get me to come onto this program, the number of calls they made, the follow-ups, the messages, I really did it because of that persistence. Even though I had something else today, I did it because they were extremely persistent. And I know that the rest of the AIESEC crew must be similar to that. And the third thing is patience. To realize that things are going to take time to grow. and the results are going to take time. So you need to find investors who are going to be patient with you as well. So as much as it's important for when I'm looking at individuals and companies to invest the 3Ps, it's important for the startups also to look at the same thing the other way around and say, is the investor passionate? Is he going to be persistent? And is he going to be patient? If I'm calling the company that I've invested in, asking questions every week, that means I'm persistent, I'm passionate, and I'm calling them weekly and giving them advice. I'm going to be patient because I'm listening to them on a weekly basis rather than every quarter you send a report or something. So for me, those three things are extremely important.
The other thing, can I work with that person being point one?
Sorry?
Can I work with that person being point one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So those three things are number one being, whether I can work with them, whether they have similar interests, whether they are trying to solve the problem is a critical thing. Because a lot of people come up and they're trying to solve problems, honestly, that's not out there in the world. And it's already been thought of as well. Because if you're thinking of an idea, probably 10 other people around the world are thinking about the same things. That's what you need to remember. The other three things that I really look for is really the hustle, the follow through, and the curiosity. Starting a business of any form is a grind. It's going to be difficult. You're not going to have everything your way, and people are not going to do favors for you just because you're young and you're trying to do something. The world is a nasty place, and investors are nasty investors. And they're doing investment of their money or someone else's money, and they have to provide the return. Work incredibly hard. If you're going to sit in the office and try and develop something, and your people who are working with you are in another office miles away, and you're not sitting with them on a daily basis and every minute working 24/7, you're not really working incredibly hard, and you don't know what that hustle is. So the hustle is really working hard and really knocking on every single door that you can as well. The second part of it is, do you capture all the opportunities? Because you need to. So do you follow through on leads? Many times people would call you and say, oh, do you know someone, this advice, do you know someone in this area? And I would give a name or number. And for weeks, some people don't even bother calling them. And I would be calling them, and did you speak to this guy? And no, I didn't. So it's that if you are happy to, the network that we've built as individuals is very precious, and your people's time is extremely precious. You can never gain it back. So if you're willing to give a minute to someone, then you must respect that, and you also need to have that follow through. And a lot of people don't have that follow through. It's this island mentality that we have in Sri Lanka, and it's sometimes a culture that needs to be looked at, be done tomorrow. And my dad comes to it today. So I sometimes stay up till midnight to make sure that, or 2 or 3 in the morning, just to finish something, because I don't want it to be on my to-do list when I get up in the morning. Because that's one thing that I do every day in the morning is, what is it I need to get accomplished for the day? And I sit in the night for 2 minutes and see, did I get everything done? So that follow through is extremely important. Sorry, you were going to say something.
No, that's okay. I'm interested.
Okay. And then the third thing is curiosity. You need to be curious in everything that you do and explore all the ways that you can improve as an individual and grow the company as well. So if you are not curious about other people's problems, and people are less curious about yours. So how curious are you about what you're doing is number one, but how curious are you about listening to other people and listening to other problems? Because at the end of the day, it's going back to that whole thing. And you need to be listening. And sometimes when especially if you're tech development or an IT development, and you're developing a system, you think you have everything sort of thought through, and you build a great product, but the consumer actually doesn't know how to use it. So what's the problem you're trying to solve? And you need to really start everything being curious about what the consumer is trying to do. So if you're trying to sell it to someone, whether it's a B2B business, C business, how are you really really exploring what the consumer is needing, and how curious are you about their life? So, the simplest form of this is just watching people sometimes. So, for example, I sometimes watch people on what actually they do with, say, a sachet of sugar. So people pick up sachets of sugar, some tear it, the sugar comes out, some shake it, some actually bounce it on the table and tear it, and it's various forms. And you just watching people do that, you understand, okay, how can I improve something? So give whatever you're doing and give it to people to play around and see what they're or product or the system you're developing. Because I think it's important to be curious about how people can help with that. So I think that is a key thing about curiosity. It's extremely important, and always be on the learning game. I mean, I learn every single day. You can see behind me the books I read. I don't read every single page. I read what I want to read, and I try and learn that through. I learn through Twitter every day. I learn through Instagram what people are doing. It's not just about reading an article. It's about seeing in what people are doing globally. Because unfortunately, Sri Lanka is not a consumer market. And if you're trying to sell goods and services, you really need to understand globally in other forms. And specifically today with COVID, you have no point of living. And the greatest example that I share, Sharon, is in my previous job, there was a lady who went to the USA for the first time. And the learning that she had just going to the airport, understanding that US only allows 2 bags to be checked in at any point, and taking 3 bags, it was a problem. Getting to the other side and landing in New York and having 3 bags and realizing that you actually need to put notes into a trolley to take the trolley out, because in Sri Lanka the trolley is just free. But just learning to really have that $2 or $3 that she needed to put into the trolley was a learning. So every day you're learning again and again, and hence the learning is an important piece of it. And always relook at the business model, because today's business model is not going to work tomorrow. So a good example is, I know you're talking to Kamaj straight after this, but one of the key things, globally known for the best impact has been Tom's Shoes. And Tom's Shoes didn't really reinvent itself. It just kept to that same thing about giving free shoes to people. And unfortunately, they struggled. And now they're in Chapter 11, and they probably need a rescue cash coming in. But if you don't reinvent, that just first idea is not going to keep you going for 10, 15 years of your life.
Now that we've got just 2 minutes to go, I only have one final question. Work-life balance with your ideas. How do you do that? I mean, when you are an entrepreneur yourself, some people don't know how to balance it. Even with the COVID situation now, working from home, people say, or your seniors would say, you have more time in your hands now, so work. Here's double work for you. How do you see this, or what sort of advice could you give them as well?
My advice is, I'm not the best person to advise, because each individual is different, and I probably am on the wrong side of that advice, because I personally do a lot more for others than for myself most of the time. So it's always, for me, there's different types of people who enjoy a different way of working. So you can't really have one plug in every single time. You're going to have the American plug, the US plug, the European plug, the Sri Lankan plug. It's going to be different with every single individual. But what I always try and do is, if you're passionate about something, try and balance your life through that passion. So and it changes over a period of time. So now I have kids. It's, spending more time with the kids is more important than, my passion for watching football or playing sports or playing golf. So you prioritize differently. But when you're young, Sharon, my advice is do as many things as you can, and go and travel the world, learn a lot more. And COVID period, obviously you can't travel, but go out and learn things from other companies. People are always willing to teach you. Today, I went to Hambantota to understand a particular business, and it's not related to me. But when you pick up the phone and say, "Look, I want to come and see your business," people are very warm and they say, "Yeah, come and see it, no problem at all." But you learn from it. So reach out and try and learn different skills. And at this young age, to be honest, I don't care if you're working 24 hours, because that's the best time of your life. Use it well, learn as much as you can, and don't be worried about work-life balance at this point.
Words to live by, Nathan. You're a great leader to share some great insights, and also to tell us to hustle, to capture the opportunities, and to be curious. And also what's very important is that not everyone listens to a leader with whatever the innovation that brings, but Nathan, you So we want to say thank you on behalf of AIESEC, University of Colombo, for joining us through this webinar session on Your Idea Can Be the Next Best Thing. And we certainly hope you'll have a great evening.
Thanks very much, Sharon. And thanks to AIESEC and the team that followed up. And good luck to Kamaj with his next session.
Good luck, Nathan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I hope I don't disconnect the line, because we are connecting to Toronto. Kamaj, how are you doing?
Good. COVID's getting back to pretty much normal in Toronto. So we're in stage 2 right now. Some of the restaurants are open, and some of the businesses are opening up. So I think we're getting back to normal. So hopefully a second wave doesn't hit.
Okay, and for those who are joining or those who are being with us online, Kamaj is the founder, CEO of Milk Toronto, the only milk-themed sneaker and streetwear boutique located in the Junction. And he's also the founder and CEO of Sneaker Tub, world's first and only mystery sneaker subscription service, delivering mystery sneakers and accessories for all the big brands that you hear. And we're here to talk to him as well on a different subject. He's gone through a lot of hardships, a lot of regrets, a lot of push, a lot of victory too. And we're going to ask the first thing, Kamaj, what do you see as the most important thing in life to achieve?
So with age, that changes. So when I was a little younger, or probably when I first started the business, it was always borderline financial, I would say, because it's an early stage of the business and the company needs to be stable. So you need to earn more money. So more revenue means the company is much more stable than it was before. But at this point in my life, so I'm a bit older than everyone here. I'm guessing I just turned 37.
Let's not
so
say that. Let's not say
no,
that.
no. I'm public about my age, so I have no issues. So I'm 37.
Selling the shoes to the youth.
Yeah. It's okay. You can have style with any age, so I don't. That's fine. So I have 2 kids now. My priorities have changed. So I think right now, for me personally, is happiness. How happy am I at the end of the day when I get into bed, and how happy am I every day when I wake up? I think happiness was always a part of it. But I think happiness is more important than anything else right now in my life. And I think for most people, the trouble is it money or is it happiness? Because there's 2 ways you can go about it, right? You can amass a lot of money and stack a lot up in the bank as an entrepreneur, or you can do stuff that makes you happy and fulfill your personal goals, or your other goals, what you may have. And yeah, for me, I think it's happiness is the most important thing right now, and I think for a very long time it's going to be happiness.
And you had a big change in 2015 where you lost your job and you just had $700 in the bank, but you're this big celeb now, being an entrepreneur? What's your secret? That little bounce of falling, what was it like? Was it the regret? Was there ever a time you feel like, oh my God, what's going to happen to me, to my future?
I don't think there was any regret, or I was never in a negative mindset, I would say. From the time, I think from the minute I lost my job, I was like, so I did, after losing my job, I also did a couple of interviews and, like went to these companies and trying to convince them that I'm like good enough to work for them. And some of these people, because my field's marketing, so when we discuss ideas at interviews, and I'm like, these guys are so stupid. They don't even know what they're talking about, kind of thing. So I'm like, I'm not going to convince people that, and give my time to people and convince them that I'm good enough to work for them. So I'm like, okay.
How much did you try, Kamaj? Because a lot of people try today and then they tend to give up.
So I would say I started the company. So I started Sneak It Up right away, 7 days after I lost my job. Within the first 48 hours, I had a website up and running. Though my degree is in computing, I had, because it's like I was one of those Sri Lankan kids, right? Like either you can become a doctor, lawyer, you can do business management, or you can do computing. And like all my friends did computing, and I'm like, okay, let me kind of do that. So I went to England, graduated, came back to Sri Lanka. That's a whole other story I've said many times. So when I lost my job, within 48 hours, the website was up and running. And I didn't know anything about the shoe industry. Like I was always like a sneakerhead and I was buying shoes, but I didn't know how like the inner workings worked in the shoe industry, the hierarchies, like how a company would sell their product. So I thought like, it's like, okay, you reach out to like info@nike.com and they're like, they get back to you, and like that never happened. So there was a phase of like education too. But I think the first 3 months, I did a lot of research and probably tried to understand a lot about the industry I'm in. But like losing my job right away, I wasn't fearful or anything. So I just wanted to basically, what I thought was that I don't have a paycheck coming in like in 2 weeks. So how am I gonna, earn money? So I think that hustle and that grind kind of drove me to be successful. And I think still after Sneak It Up's, like 5 years now, almost 5, I still have that drive and that passion about the business that I'm in. And it's also very important for young people to start a business in what you like or what you're passionate about. Because a lot of guys ask me, like I get a lot of Facebook messages and they're like, okay, give me a business idea, what's trendy, what's in right now, so I can start it, and give me advice on how to start it. So I'm
asking you, is it?
Yeah, so people keep asking me for business ideas. That's the
with the proposal.
No. They keep asking me for business ideas. I think so I have different paths to me. So I do music, I do YouTube, and a bunch of stuff. So there's different audiences kind of like following different paths in my life. So it comes usually from the YouTube audience. They're like, okay, give me like, the next big idea. So I'm like, no, that's not how it works, guys. You find out, what you're passionate about, and then see if there's anything similar to that, model after that, see what they're not doing right, and then you create a business. And for me, that's the best way. So the sneaker industry didn't have a subscription service, and the sneaker industry did not need a subscription service, to be honest with you, because people, and there was a lot of education we still do to our customers, what it is, how it's different from traditional retail or online retail. I think it's the most important thing is you have to be passionate about the industry you're in, or the business that you started. You you wake up every day, and it's not just another job for you.
Kamaj, what made you the person you are today? This YouTube sensation, your music, and a complete turnaround of coming out with this idea. What made you as that person? Because a lot of people tend to be negative. Sometimes They feel like I'm qualified. I have so much of qualifications. I need to hold on to this. I don't want any directions. There can be positives where they might see what's there, but they don't follow that. But as to who you are today.
I think not being afraid is what it is. Because when you start to do something new, you do hear a lot of negative things from people around you. So like even when I started my YouTube channel, I'm like, okay, so I question myself a bit, like, is this the right thing for me? Like whatever, like I can put this time to something else and, you know, make money or whatever, like put it towards the company. But I think that's not the way I approached it. Because my background's in film and TV as well. So like my master's, I did like a film and TV thing, a postgrad. So I'm like, okay, I'm passionate about this. So like I need to start a YouTube channel. But my main, I didn't want to start an entertainment YouTube channel. What I wanted to do was I wanted to speak to people about like my experiences and kind of try to motivate them. But if I started that right away, I don't think anyone would have watched me. So I'm like, okay, like I have this strategy. I'm going to start like this entertainment thing. And then slowly I'm going to convert that audience into what I want them to listen to. So I think I got a bit of a following. So like now the route I'm taking with my channel is a little different. It's not purely entertainment. There's like, you know, value in there as well, like outside of entertainment value. I tend to ramble on and I tend to forget the question.
Okay. But how do you multitask all of this? How did you balance it all up? And you said you were married too.
Oh, yeah, married,
that's
2 kids.
Taking care of social media, your businesses, Sneaker Top, as well as Milk, all of this.
I wish I could say it's time management, but it's not. I just try to pack as much as I can to a day. But it's like, yes, something's got to give. Sometimes, you know, family time is.
But I bet COVID helped you with that, right? To catch
yes,
up
COVID
with
did. Yes. It cut down on travel a lot. So yeah. So my son was at home, so his daycare closed down, so I could spend a little more time with him than before. And now he's a little older too. He's 2, so he's getting into things that I kind of like Star Wars and all of the nerd stuff. He's liking it. So now it's easier to spend time with him, as opposed to like him being an infant, like a 6-month-old, right?
Do you follow a list of
no.
These are the actions? This is what I have to do. I wake up at this time. I do this.
I'm the worst person when it comes to that. It's all in my head, and I'm like thoroughly disorganized. And like if I showed you my drawer, it's like my wife's the opposite. She's like OCD, and like I'm the total opposite of that. But everything's in my head. I know what I need to kind of do. So that's like the kind of method to my madness. I think it's about being passionate about what you want to do. May it be YouTube. Like I started a podcast like a month ago. And it's all these things that I want to do. And you putting in the time and the effort and you doing it right. So I wish I could say time management, but my time management's terrible.
And you've done a pretty neat job with the shoes. So
thank you.
Life, I guess.
Thank you.
Kamaj, if you have to look back in time, do you like you now, or would you like the Kamaj before?
I think I would have started a little earlier. So I started my business when I was 5 years ago, like 32. Started a little bit earlier, and I wasted a little bit of time, you know, partying and, you know, socializing with friends. Well, I think after
you've enjoyed life, isn't it? You've enjoyed
yeah, but I would have preferred if I started a little earlier, but it's like I'm a person who don't have any regrets. So I'm like, I think everything happens for the right reason at the right time. So like, there's no point in looking back and being like, I should have started earlier. It's fine. Like I'm happy with where I am. I'm heading. So I don't think I would change. Probably the only thing I would change would have been, so when I first started doing my degree, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do in life, like most kids. And I didn't know, like even going to England, I didn't know like we had all these opportunities in like doing whatever you want to do. I think it's probably came with like 10 years ago or whatever, like internet and social media wasn't like where it is at now. It's probably like could have done a little bit more research, but yeah, I would have probably changed my major, but I don't believe education is everything. You got to be street smart, so it doesn't matter if you have a degree or not. Especially in today's environment, a lot of companies don't look at especially in North America, paper qualifications. Some companies do, and some jobs require a specific skill set. But social media, if you're good at, you don't need a degree to prove that you're good at social media. So, yeah.
What sort of advice would you give the youth that's watching right now, who are probably having this little game of thinking, how am I going to get out there? How's my idea going to be accepted in the industry? What do you have to say to them, Kamaj?
I think stop thinking and doing is probably the first step that you should do, because that's what I did. I didn't think for a long time, and I wasn't before I started my business. A lot of people want everything perfect. I need to have this amount of money. I need to have, I need to do this with marketing. I need this budget for marketing. I think starting the business is probably the best thing you can do. Like, if you have an idea, get on it first before someone else gets on it. And you can figure things out later, step by step. Like, we're still figuring things out. Like, 5 years in the business, we're still figuring things out. We're trying out new packages. We're trying out different promos, doing like different marketing tactics, like working with like new celebrities, changing our website, changing the UI, like all that, like we do on probably, I'd say, on a daily basis. You can figure things out later. It's just that you need to start, and you need to, and people need to start a business. Certain businesses, yes, you do. But we're living in the age of the internet, and if you can be successful, you will never be successful, because we have it so much easier, right? Like the cost of a Facebook ad is, so you compare a Facebook ad with like a TV commercial from 10 years ago, like it's like night and day, right? Like, the cost of attention is so low. Anyone can be successful if you have the right idea.
Kamaj, that right idea that you said can be very challenging. And sometimes this is where a lot of people think, it's like a copy from someone else. It's not innovative. What do we do? How do we direct them to do something different?
I mean, they need to start it and figure it out themselves, right? Sometimes you don't know till you do it. Like if I didn't start a sneaker subscription service, I wouldn't know if the world needs a sneaker subscription service. I always thought the world doesn't need a sneaker subscription service, but I thought, okay, like if I would subscribe if this the people in the world, right? So Nike started a sneaker subscription service 3 years after I started a sneaker subscription service. So that means I was well ahead of time. So I think you should start it. Also, like, do your research, because that's what I didn't do at first. I started the business and then started doing like a bunch of research. But do your research. Like, Google's your best friend. Like, a lot of people ask me these questions, how to do things, but it's all available on Google. Like, you can use Google and you can do anything. I think be resourceful, and try to understand the kind of business you're getting into. Like, study your competitors, see what they are not doing, and adapt. Adapt to the current marketplace. A lot of people in Sri Lanka started like grocery delivery businesses, like masks and all those things, right? So I think this is we are living in the best time to start a business, because the cost of starting a business is so low, and it's so much easier to get attention, especially during COVID. Like we doubled our ad budgets. Basically, like, as soon as COVID hit, I told my ad guys, like, just double our ad budget, because we're getting so much attention for so much like less money, because a lot of the bigger companies cut down on their ad budget. So I wanted to go in an opposite way. And I wanted to test the waters out. It worked. I think we're doing like 3 or 4 times more revenue than we were doing last year. So always take a risk. Don't take risks that could break your business, but calculated risks.
Wow. Some great initiatives and also great points being shared, Kamaj. And I think a lot of them are very positive now, because every conversation that we hear, we want to bring out the best in a youth in whatever they have to share. One of the biggest challenges is sustaining ethics, following the right thing. What do you have to say about that? Because not only just in Sri Lanka, around the world, people don't follow sustainability and also following proper ethics.
Yeah, I think it's important, and it depends on the business you're in, right? Like, so we as a business, Nikita, we try to cut down on like a lot of, like, if you talk about like environmental sustainability, we try to cut down on. It's a little different and difficult in our business because not a lot of companies make sustainable like vegan shoes or whatever, and in the sneaker market, vegan shoes are not looked at in a positive light because they're used to like Air Maxes or like Jordan 1s, and like these you can't make these like sustainably, right? Like but as a company, we try to, with our packaging, and try to use less plastic, use water-based materials or tape or whatever. So we try to do that. I think it's really important, especially in this day and age where the effect we have on the environment as companies. We should be responsible in any little way we can. You don't have company and change the company overnight just because you want to be sustainable, but baby steps and do little things that can make a huge impact overall.
Kamaj, I'm going to ask you to stay there with us. We're going to quickly ask all our delegates to fill up this form that we are sharing with you through the Facebook chat. And there will be a verification code that will be shared to you as well, the inside delegates, which will be through the WhatsApp group. We want you to take a minute to fill it up, and don't forget to use the verification code that is shared as well. While you enjoy the little insights and conversation that we're having with Kamaj, we're also getting back to him now to ask about, if you have to mention one decision you got as the best decision in your life right now, what would it be?
I would say starting my own business is probably like the only difficult decision that I've had to make. I could have, but I don't think I will work for anyone else, touch wood, pretty soon. I think that would be the best decision I've ever taken, rather than taking another, maybe a high paying job because I was in the industry for 5 years, and I could have just like gone for, with a little bit of trial and error, I could have gone for like a better job. But I think deciding to do my own thing and starting my own company was probably the best decision that I ever made, because it gives me also the freedom to do some of the other things that I like. And I'm building a brand. I'm building a brand for myself. I'm not building someone else's brand, and I'm not driving someone else's. I'm driving my own car, and I'm going to my own destination rather than helping take someone to their destination. So I think for everyone who's listening too, so this is the best time to start your own thing, because cost of entry is so low.
Kamaj, can we also touch a little bit about starting from the rough, where a lot of people don't want to go through it?
I think for me, I enjoy like starting from the rough and the grind and the hustle more than working for a developed and like an easygoing company. So I think personally, like I probably start like more new things every day, like podcasts and YouTube. I like the growing stages, because I think that's where I'm most creative artist when I want to grow something. But also there's a thing, like not everyone can be an entrepreneur, and not everyone should be an entrepreneur. Like you have to have that drive and the hustle to become an entrepreneur, because things could turn out pretty bad for you with a certain impact. For example, COVID, like we could have totally stopped our business, being like, oh, COVID's hit, like no one's going to buy shoes and freak out. You can do that, or you can go the opposite way.
Kamaj, a lot of Sri Lankans enjoyed the holidays. So
it definitely wasn't a holiday for me. I think I put in more hours. I think like as Sri Lankans, we're a little chill because we're an island where, we tend to.
We love the beach.
The only thing I miss about it. we have pebbles, the real sand. I think, we're a little more relaxed because also like how we grow up, right? Like you don't move out till you're married. Sometimes you don't move out ever. You live in like the same house, like, your parents will feed you. Here out by 16, 18, and they have to figure out life for themselves. I think most kids, that's where the drive comes. And most entrepreneurs, I think that's where they're built. And Sri Lanka, we're used to this certain thing where, like, even our parents say, you study, you get a degree, you do a job, and then you die. Right?
No, you get married and then you die.
You get married, you get a house, pay a mortgage or whatever, like pay your rent, and then you die, right? Like there's more to life than that. I think I think you can steer or direct your life in any possible way. Like your dreams, don't think your dreams are ever, unachievable. They are, like, with the right amount of work. You can get there. Maybe not everyone has to be a millionaire, and not everyone needs to be a millionaire. Like I know people who earn like 60,000 rupees a month in Sri Lanka, and they're happy.
Very happy.
So for me, basically, I told you before, it's not about money. It's about happiness. It's not how much money I make. It's not how many, cars I have in the driveway or whatever. For me, it's like at this point in my life, it's about first me being happy and spreading that happiness to others, and all build businesses. Not necessarily, financially help them to, because I'm not an angel investor. I don't have that much of money. I have invested in like a few like smaller companies, but I'm nowhere close and not an angel investor. But I want to help with ideas. I want to help with their growth, and don't ask me for the next business idea.
I was going to get because tomorrow morning you'll be flooded with a lot of messages from somewhere saying, "Hey, can you please invest in this idea that I have?"
Yeah, so I give a lot of people my time as well. I do Zoom calls with a lot of people. Like, if you have a good idea, and like if you need my help, like may it be marketing, may it be advice on how to steer the company forward. It doesn't always have to be money, because there is money. There's a lot of angel investors. If you have the right idea, and if you have, you have to have a right story, like when you're pitching to, because we can get into this pitching thing about, we can go on about it. Like, a lot of people ask, like, how do I get angel investors? I'm like, what's your story? Like, people are investing in your business. Most people are investing in you. So you need to have like a good story. If you don't have a good story, create one.
Great stuff, Kamaj. You've shared some great inspiration today for our youth that has been watching us all on Facebook. We're going to say thank you to all of them for joining in today's live discussion. We also have a challenge that took place, the Voice the Change Challenge, a speech contest challenge, which was aligned with Insights 2020. We spoke on the topics of option 1 was the case of mental health, overlooked and or overstated. And option 2 was exams or experience. What is a better predictor of a future job performance? And we have a winner. And we're going to take a minute now to from the Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo, Afra Niaz. Congratulations to you. You are the winner of the Voice the Change Challenge. So congratulations to you, Afra Niaz, and thank you for joining us. And to the rest of the participants, congratulations to you as well, because taking the effort of being a part of a speech challenge is one of the first things that you have ever taken. So congratulations to the winners. The team behind, or the organizers, have organized a special gift for you. There you go. We can see her face there. Afra Niaz is live on Facebook. We got a picture up. So that's that. And Kamaj, once again, We want to say thank you to you for being with us. We certainly hope you will grow and expand much more. And until we see you next time at another AIESEC event, to all the viewers, thank you very much. On behalf of the University of Colombo AIESEC, we'd like to thank you all for joining us on the second day for Insights. Kamaj, any final words?
Yeah, thank you guys. Just the only thing I can tell you guys is to, just if you have an idea, work on it, start it. Don't think about all the negatives. The best thing you can do is start. Also, listen to my podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. It's on YouTube. It's called The Kamaj Show, where I bring in guests from different industry and we talk about entrepreneurship. We talk about life. It's a very informal conversation, but I think there's a lot of value in it. So I'm plugging my podcast. Everyone who's listening, please listen to my podcast.
Okay. A mini commercial update for you.
Always be plugging.
Thanks a lot, Kamaj. Thank you very much. And to all our viewers, thank you. We certainly hope you have a great evening. Don't be disheartened. Have no fear. Take risk and move forward. Let your idea be the next great thing. Until we see you next time, I'm Shara Mascarenhas wishing you a very pleasant evening. Take care.
Take care, guys.